we wondered if you wouldn't mind taking us maybe through one of your favorite Psalms or just a few lines of one of your favorite Psalms from the book. Maybe read it in Hebrew and then give us a little English translation and talk about what you see in the poem.
Yeah, no, I'm up for that. I thought about this and I thought I just want to do Psalm 1 for a whole bunch of reasons.
It's good.
A whole bunch of reasons. One reason is before I came out to Ethiopia, I used to be I'm an ordained Anglican minister. So back in the UK, while I was doing my PhD, I was also doing minister stuff.
Wow.
Nice.
And sometimes I would be with someone who has a different religious worldview to me, and it was an opportunity to kind of open the Bible and talk about what Jesus means to me and why he might be relevant to them. And very often I might go to Psalm 1. Okay, so this was one of those texts in the whole Bible that I would go to and talk with people. But also Psalm 1 is about reading. This is one reason it's the beginning of the Psalter. So it's kind of an advert for our book itself. So I thought
I like it.
You guys have done a great job though, so I don't need to supplement it, but so thanks for but no, the other reason is because Psalm 1 contains my one mistake that I made in the book. That's a joke, by the way. I'm sure there's others.
But we know this one is here. Yes, right.
Yeah, we know this one's here. But the reason the mistake is there is it's interesting because it's a really difficult. I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about as well, because I think it's quite an interesting and difficult problem, and I'm not happy with the solution I come up with. So anyway, let me read Psalm 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave short pauses in two different places. I'm going to leave pauses where the accent system, the cantillation system, tells you to leave a pause. But I'm also going to leave a short pause where there is what I have called a virtual disjunctive, a virtual pause. If you want to know more about that, that's in the appendix. Psalm 1. Ashrei ha'ish, asher lo halach, ba'atzat rasha'im, ובדרך חטאים לא עמד, ובמושב לצים לא ישב. כי אם בתורת אדוני חפצו, ובתורתו יגע יומם ולילה. והיה כעץ שתול על פלגי מים, אשר פריו ייתן בעיתו, ועליהו לא יבול, וכל אשר יעשה יצליח. לא כן הרשעים, כי אם כמוץ, אשר תדפני, אשר תדפנו רוח, על כן לא יקומו רשעים, במשפט, וחטאים בעדת צדיקים. כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים ודרך רשעים תאבד.
Wow, kol hakavod.
I apologize for misreading that. The irony there about that mistake is I confused the Vav with a Yod, which is one of the most common.
Correct. Let's say this is just a Scrabble error in the book. Actually,
it is right. Exactly.
It wasn't your reading. This was the book Scrabble error.
So yeah, that's So
a true scribe.
Yod and Vav is one of the most common errors or common differences, I should say, in manuscripts. So there you go. I've just illustrated for you how that happens.
I have to say, I feel like you in all seriousness though, I feel like you took me to a little campfire as you're reading this. It's really cool to hear the ebb and the flow and the tone as you read the psalm, and you talk about making reading fun. We feel it. It's just, I feel like we're at a professional storyteller who's giving us this first poem. Anyway,
Thanks.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
actually,
very lovely.
when I've done youth camps before, then something I like to do, which is a little bit different, is teach the youth to sing the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. You know, and you get them to a
that's
round.
great.
That's
So
great. Yeah.
Hebrew works fantastically well around a campfire. I can encourage anyone. You know, if you're in youth work, why not learn the original
Yeah,
language?
why not? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's great. Yeah. All right. Let me. Can I say some things about this text?
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
So you know, let me just go to some details, and then I'll come back and say some points of interpretation. Oh no, sorry. Let me translate it first. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
That's great.
So, okay, so verse 1, Ashrei Haish, blessed is the man, or happy is the man. It's always interesting seeing what Jonathan's put down as the gloss for different things, you know. So, blessed is the man, Asher hu lo halach, does not walk or has not walked, ba'atzat choshaim, in the counsel of the wicked ones, uvader chataim, but in the counsel of sinners, lo amad, he does not stand or has not stood, uvemoshav letzim, and in the dwelling place or the seat of mockers, he does not sit. Ki im betorat Adonai, and I've got something to say on this a bit later.
Okay.
But in the law of the Lord, cheftzo, is his delight. Okay, and this is, I think, really a key verse for the whole psalm. Uvetoroto yegeh, and in his law, he meditates or mutters or something like that. Yomam v'layla, day and night. V'haya, and he will be ke'etz, as a tree, shatul raud palgei mayim, planted by streams of water, asher piryo, which its fruit, yiten be'ito, it will give in its time, v'alehu lo yibol, and its leaf will not wither, v'chol asher ya'aseh. Okay, and now I'm going to deviate slightly from the ESV, if you don't mind. And all which it produces, yatzliach, will prosper. Lo chen harashaim, not so the wicked. Ki im kamots, but like chaff. Asher tidfenu ruach, which the wind blows away. Al ken, therefore, lo yam kumu rashaim, the wicked will not stand. Bamishpat, in the judgment. The chataim, and the sinners, ba'adat tzadikim, in the council or the assembly of the righteous ones. And actually, there's something I noticed for the first time ever in this psalm because of Jonathan's gloss here, which delighted me a lot, and I'll say something about that in a moment. Ki yodea Adonai, for the Lord knows, derech tzadikim, the way of the righteous, the derech rashaim, but the way of the wicked ones, toved, will perish. So let me just hone in for a moment on verse 2. Okay, so this is the verse 2. Ki im betorat Adonai. Okay, this I can't the number of times I've changed my mind on this, and it just drove me crazy. Okay, and what I have there is a compromise that I'm not happy with. Compromise is that's the nature of academia. You have to make judgment calls on things, and sometimes you just got to decide something which is kind of like a halfway house between things. The cantillation of this half verse is very, very well. Firstly, it breaks the rules because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 words, and they are all connected by conjunctive accents. You're not supposed to have a clause of more than two words connected by conjunctive accents. There's one particular part of a verse where that can happen, and we don't quite know how to further break it down. And that's after the middle point of a verse, before a certain type of disjunctive accent. You can find out more in the appendix. But other than there, nowhere else you're supposed to have more than two words connected together. And when you do have more than two words connected together, that's because the text should be split up in a certain way, but because of the rules of music, a disjunctive accent or more than one disjunctive accent has transformed into a conjunctive accent. Okay, so in English you see this, right? If you go to a West End show, so that's a London thing. It's a West End show, Broadway.
There you go.
You go to a Broadway show and you listen to them sing. Okay, if you stopped and thought about it, the way they're pronouncing words is ridiculous. Okay, because they're pronouncing words in a certain way to make it sound nice in the way they sing, right? And you know, when you do that, you open your mouth like this so that you can ensure that the notes are carried on long vowels. Okay, I originally trained as an actor, so I learned all this stuff when I trained as an actor. And so you emphasize all of the vowels, not in a technical linguistic way, but you just make vowels long. So we see it in English already when we sing things, and the same thing happens in the Psalms sometimes, where you would logically, where the cantillation system wants to have a disjunctive, it transforms to a conjunctive. However, here, ki im betorat Adonai, the most logical place to have a disjunctive would be after im, okay? Because you want to say ki im betorat Adonai, okay?
Right.
I think about 3 or 4 different times in my notes and between me and the typographer, we had ki im break betorat Adonai, okay? The problem is the rules of how the conjunctive system, of how the disjunctive system transforms to conjunctives, you cannot explain there being a break there at all after im. It doesn't make any sense. Why would there be one there? So the reason, what I think is going on here is there should be a small break after betorat. So if you listen again to my speaking of the text, I said ki im betorat Adonai, right? That would be the only way to make sense of it. There should be a dechi accent on betorat, and that would change before the gadol. Sorry, that would change before the revia. It's revia katan, which is the next accent. And in that case, then there would be another change that occurs before, or at the beginning of the clause. Okay, so if there was another disjunctive that occurred after ki, then it would be a legama, and that would weaken and become a conjunctive. So that's what would happen. The problem is that makes no sense to text whatsoever that I can see. I can't. It's just so kind of, you know. And so eventually I decided, okay, I'm just going to put in, I'm going to put in what looks to be like a legama that has become a conjunctive accent. So ki, okay, has transformed into simply a disjunctive. Sorry, transformed into a conjunctive by losing the break of the legama. So I put that in, but I've not put any other breaks in that section. I'm not happy with this because what I have put in is definitely wrong. Whatever that clause on its own definitely doesn't work. But what it is a fudge between 2 different possible things, and eventually I decided that's the only thing I can put in. So this is one of those places where I actually have no idea what the right solution is. Okay,
I actually wonder. What comes to my mind as you're talking is when you think in a general sense, whenever things deviate from normal, sometimes it can be a way of putting emphasis on something. Like, for example, in genealogies, whenever you find in some of these ancient genealogies, there's derivation from the typical someone begat someone, someone son of someone.
Yeah.
We randomly break down to poetry, we're emphasizing something.
Yeah.
And again, maybe there's just simply something weird going on, we don't know. But what are the chances that the one place in Psalm 1 where something would be deriving from normal behavior would be in with ki'im b'torat Adonai, would be in this specific phrase, but in the Torah of the Lord? So do you think there's potentially some intentionality going on here? Why maybe the Masoretes they're doing something that draws your attention to this particular phrase?
Well, that's a really good point. I think firstly to say, this isn't the Masoretes. This is them recording the oral tradition that they received.
Okay.
On that, there's a couple of layers in terms of the answer, but before we get to your idea, which is a really good idea. The first point is to say, did the Masoretes correctly record what they inherited? So there may be places where they made mistakes.
But this goes back to your journal article, I guess, though, right?
Yes, that's right.
So
I'm not actually, my article, I'm not arguing that they made a mistake. I'm arguing they didn't understand what they were writing, but they recorded.
Correct. To my point, though, that they're so faithfully writing down, even when they don't understand.
That's right. Yeah.
Sure.
So assuming that they're faithful in this place.
Yeah.
Okay. The next point is, I mean, Pete Myers is, an eternal student, always making mistakes. This could be really obvious. It's just that I'm too much of an idiot at the moment to see how that's the case. And if you've done any studying of language, then that happens all the time.
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you see something like, this is really deep, this is kind of major, and then you go on your Facebook group and you put it up, and then someone goes, no, this is kind of obvious thing. It happens all the time. You're like, okay, right. We'll put it on the internet next time. So there's that second possibility. But then the third possibility is, there could be something interesting going on, and it could be drawing attention to something in the text. I take it that's what the singing does. It draws our attention to things. And I would invite, I give this to anyone who's watching. If you can find some way that I'm wrong, then, that's a short note in something, you can publish it. Or you could find some way that maybe I'm right, and actually you observe this really interesting exegetical point. And that's great, and that what I want to do is, the kind of things I want to publish are things that make other people discover things. That's I think the most exciting thing
that's good
about publication.
That's cool.
Is it's publication that pays forward in some way. And that's another reason why I thought I wanted to draw attention to this little detail. But in terms of in terms of the Psalm, this is the most important verse of the Psalm. Okay, this is the thing that distinguishes the blessed man from those who are unblessed. And so maybe there's something there about the way in which that's introduced, with a pause in the middle of the conjunction. I don't know how that would function, but maybe there is. But anyway, this is what the Psalm's about. This is what the psalmist wants us to do. Wants us to enjoy the law of the Lord. And I think, looking forward to the Psalms, the compiler of the Psalms, redactor of the Psalms, or whatever label you want to use for that final form. The reason why the Psalm wants to do it here is because we're supposed to look forward and say, how do I enjoy it? I want to enjoy the Psalter.